We get our fifth wind of energy now during these last 3
Fifth
days because
wind.
it's the last. Hello. Welcome, everybody. We are in our final session of Sales Workshop 2024. Can you believe it, Bonnie? We've made
I
it.
cannot. I feel like we honestly, the first day was yesterday. Like it's already Thursday. It's the afternoon here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And this is like the last real session. I don't count happy hour as a session, but
Nah, that's just fun. Yeah, Morris, we're doing happy hour after this, by the way.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
talk about,
Outstanding.
yeah. So that's what this is going to be the best way. And like I've been saying, I said this at the very beginning of all these sessions. I was like, this session will be the best way possible to just cap off everything, to just bookend this whole entire series of sessions. It was so much fun, but I will still tell you, in case there is anybody joining us for the first time, but if there is, definitely tell us in the chat, but tell us in the chat how many you've attended so far. We've been
Ooh.
asking a lot of people this question throughout, and so many of you have been like going strong with us, which is
Yes.
really awesome. But tell us in there. But a couple things, yeah, see, Suzanne, all of them. Wow, it's so impressive, Joyce, all of them. Just one other, all of them. I can't believe how many of you are sticking with all of them.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
Just
amazing.
soaking up all the
yeah.
information.
Yeah, that is, yeah. Has there been, I mean, all the info? It's been a lot of stuff. It's been really good. And again, can't wait for this one. But one thing that I do want to mention is if you did miss any of them, don't worry. They are all available on the Sales Workshop landing page. So they will all be there. So come in here, you'll be able to watch them. Like the ones that we just had earlier today, they should be available. If they're not yet, it just takes maybe an hour after it finishes to get loaded up in there. But then we're going to be putting them all on our YouTube channel. We might be doing it tomorrow, but we'll see if we get that far. Otherwise, it might be next week. But no matter what, you can still watch the recordings at any time on the Sales Workshop page in there. So it's going to be really cool. But then one of the other things, so I'm just going to jump really quick here. So I don't forget to talk about this, but after this, it is officially almost time. We're going to have travel trivia happy hour and Bonnie is leading it. So Bonnie, what can we expect later today?
Well, if you've joined us in the past, they're going to be very similar where we get little, not Travify, oh my gosh, travel facts from really as many places as we can. So brush up on your, I guess, fun facts about every country knowledge, if that is a niche of yours. But this will be really fun. We actually get to see your faces a little bit more that way. And we can just cheers to a really great and productive week.
Absolutely. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be awesome. Now what I want to do, because I know that we are going to have so much fun just in this hour alone before we even get to happy hour. And we brought in Morris Sims. Now, if none of you have been able to see Morris Sims or hear from him, meet him, you're in for a treat. Because I got to, when was this, Morris? Maybe it was like it was earlier this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that we connected, and now we've done podcasts. I'll have to put those in the chat. We did a podcast together. I was on his podcast, and it's just been so cool. And I'll let Morris explain his whole backstory, but I immediately after meeting him was like, "Can you come on Sales Workshop?" And this was like still months and months to go till Sales Workshop, and so we got him. So I'm so excited to have him here. So with that, Morris, can you share just a little bit more about yourself and what is your story and what's the sales part of your life? Like you're big sales guru, but explain more. I'll let you do that.
Sure. Thanks, Stephanie. I was born in a log cabin. No, I won't go that far. That's my mother's introduction for me. Before I get into that, let me just say, please forgive me when I do this. It's because I've got a really big monitor over here, and I'll look over there to see the chat and see what's going on and see Stephanie and see all the shining faces, Bonnie and Stephanie and such. So please forgive me when I do that. It's not because I'm looking away from you. It's just trying to keep up with all the rest of the stuff that's going on. My degree is in chemical engineering from Auburn University, which means we're not having a really good football season this year, but I did that for 5 years and decided I wanted to do something fun. So I went off and started selling life insurance for a New York Life Insurance Company. After a few years of success doing that, they said, why don't you come over here and teach other people to do what you do? Well, that was I don't know, 28 years after that. I retired from New York Life out of Manhattan in the home office where I was vice president and chief learning officer for our sales department. My group of 200 trainers were selling or were teaching some 12,000 agents and 400 or 500 managers how to run a business and how to sell. And that's kind of been our focus for all that time. So when I retired, I started a business consulting and doing that. And that was so much fun. But then I hit a great niche and I started working with travel advisors and travel agency owners. I've got several travel agencies that are now clients of mine. And together, one of my clients, one of my top clients, the first one that I ever had, she and I decided to start a membership called the Travel Masters Learning Community, where we provide all kinds of training and live training and other sundry things to do to help travel agency owners and travel advisors get better at running their business efficiently and get better at sales. So that's kind of where it all came from. Been doing this for 40 plus years and I love it. Got nothing that I enjoy doing more than talking about the stuff we're going to talk about here tonight. Or today, I guess it is. It's not night yet. I'm in Texas, so it's it's still sun shining out there right now. But that's really what we're going to do. And every time I talk about sales in a lot of different industries, I hear somebody say, I'm not a salesperson. Or somebody will say, I just can't be salesy. Or, I don't want to get anywhere near sales. Well, that led me to a question of exactly what do people believe? So let me ask that question of you. What's your perception? Just in a word or two, chat it in. What's your perception of somebody that says, I'm a salesperson? What's your perception? Chat that in, please, if you would. And Stephanie, I'll let you guys tell me what you see in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah. And really quick, Morris, your camera cut out. Just that.
Oh.
We were like, oh, we want to see his face. I will tell you while. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Again,
no.
I'm looking at the camera and all that's going on over here. I apologize.
No,
So
that's
anyway.
okay.
So what do you
There's
see?
there's a ton of responses. A lot of them pushy, slimy, aggressive. A lot of pushy.
Yep.
Someone said run. So a used car salesman.
I like slimy. I've never been called slimy before. I like that one.
Slimy Sims.
Slimy Sims. Yeah. Oh, nickname. And that's exactly right. I mean, you guys are not off or away from what the general perception is when anyone says the word sales or salesperson. And I get that. And it's absolutely true. It's out there. And that is what, I mean, if you looked at doctors, there'd be somebody out there that would say, oh, they're a bunch of quacks. Well, same thing's true here. And there's that kind of perception out there amongst the world all over the place. So y'all aren't wrong. In fact, you're not even outside the 9 dots. It is the way it is. A friend of mine recently told me that a sale is actually transferring enthusiasm from one person to another. Think about that for a minute, because I think it fits your business. Transferring enthusiasm from one person to another. You tell me everything that you want in a trip. I get excited about it and I'm enthusiastic about your trip. So I'm transferring my enthusiasm to you so that you can get enthusiastic about all the wonderful things that we're going to do on this trip. Made sense to me. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty good definition. My definition of professional sales goes more like this. I believe a professional salesperson is in the business of helping their clients and prospective travelers get what they want. That's my job. Even my job today as a consultant, as a keynote speaker, my job is to help my clients get what they want from their business, whatever that might be. It's not, and same thing's true with you and your clients, your prospective travelers. You want to help them have the trip that they envision. You want to help them get whatever it is that they wanted when they started thinking about making that river cruise on the Danube. You want them to get everything that they had there so that when they come back, they can say, Stephanie was the best travel advisor I ever heard, and she did such wonderful things for me and solved all my problems and everything was wonderful. You want to help your clients get what they want. Would you agree? Just again, throw it out there in the chat. Would you agree? Does that make sense to everybody? Are we on the same page? Stephanie, what do you
Say
see?
yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah. And I
Okay.
love there's one person said that's the best description I've ever heard when you mentioned, the enthusiasm. That's so good. Yep, everyone agrees.
Good, good, good. So we're on the same page. It's always important. And we can start from there because I just think it's so important. Now, I ain't so smart. I got this from Peter Drucker. Drucker said, and if you don't know, Dr. Peter Drucker is like the guru of all management and leadership development since the 40s and 50s, back when, my mom was driving a horse and carriage. But Peter says, just what you see there, you can have everything you ever wanted in your entire life if you just help enough other people get what they want. It's about helping other people get what they want. It's not about helping them do what you want them to do. It's not about pushing or pulling or manipulating in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It is strictly and totally professional salespeople, strictly and totally about helping my client get what they want. Now, to some extent, I also have to remember, especially in our business, it's not my vacation. It's not my trip. And it's not my wallet. So what I'm saying here is we've got to be open to the fact that what they want to do may not be what we would ever want to do. There's no way. There are a lot of people that are taking trips today that I've heard from my associates, my travel agencies, owners. They're people that go and do things that I would never, ever want to do, but they do. And my job is not to worry about what I think and what I would believe, but it's about helping them get what they want. Same thing's true with my wallet. They may be able to afford and want to do things that I wouldn't ever do or wouldn't ever spend money on. They're willing to, but it's their vacation and it's their wallet, so it's okay. Our job is to help them get what they want. So in my book, you are professional salespeople. You are out there to help your clients get what they want. You are in the business of helping people. And in fact, you are, as travel advisors, the antithesis of being salesy. All right. So I think we'll get that one out of the way and forget it. The question becomes, though, how do you do that? How do you go through the sales process without being salesy? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. We do it by using the travel professionals planning process. Yeah, I made it up. And it sounds pretty good, I think, the travel professionals planning process, the TP cubed, kind of an acronym, but it works. And there are 5 steps. There are 5 steps to the process. The first is that initial conversation, the entire objective of which is to make a friend. You want to build a friendship and build a professional business relationship based on trust. The second step is discovery and qualifying. This is where you find out everything you need to know to be able to build the best recommendations for trips for your client based on what they've told you that they really, really want. The third is designing and presenting the presentation. Designing part, that's yours. That's your art. That's the part I don't know anything about, but you do. So designing those recommendations is totally in your wheelhouse, and it's what you do and you do so well. Presenting those recommendations, I've got some ideas for you on that part. The fourth step is helping them make a decision. We all, every last one of us, I would bet you, every last one of us will procrastinate when given the opportunity. I would much rather procrastinate until you let me think about it rather than actually make a decision and take action. It's just human nature. It's just who we are and the way we are. But we have ways we can help them get past that uncomfortable feeling that they might have and help them make a decision. I'll show you how to do that too. And finally, you're going to follow up and stay in touch with these folks because you built a friendship, you built a relationship. And it is much easier for them to do business with someone they already know and that they know they can trust. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a whole lot easier for you to plan trips with people that have already built that relationship of trust and they trust you. So following up and keeping in touch with your prospects is so vitally important, with your clients is so vitally important. That's why it's a step of the entire process. Now let's take each one of these one by one and sort of see kind of where we are. That initial conversation, as I said, you're trying to make a friend in the same way you would make a friend. We want to begin to have that conversation. It isn't about, I've got to learn facts. It's about a conversation back and forth where we're beginning to build some trust with one another, because it is the trust that makes all the difference in the world. There was a sales course that we went through and then we taught for years that their analogy was, you have to build a bridge over the river of no trust. And that's so true. You've got to get to the point where your prospect, your prospective traveler, trusts that you have the knowledge, the expertise, and the credibility to help them get whatever it is that they want. So you have a conversation, you begin to learn things, and then you transition that into a business conversation and move into step 2, which is discovery. Now, there are 2 different kinds of information we want to get out of discovery. The first is just the facts, ma'am. There was an old show back in the 50s called Dragnet, and that's one of the things that he used to always say was, just the facts, ma'am. Well, there you go. You first have to get the facts, right? Hard information. When do you want to go? Where do you want to go? What do you want to, where do you want to stay? What do you want to do while you're there? That kind of hard factual information. Well, that's pretty easy to do. I mean, that becomes, if you don't do anything but that, it becomes an interrogation, and they might as well be filling out a form online and press book it to get their trip. And if all you do is just the hard information, gee, it's kind of like you're just an order taker, right? But if you get to the why part, if you get to the why do you want to go to travel a river cruise on the Danube with Alma River Cruises, or why do you want to go to Walt Disney World with your entire family for 7 nights? You know, again, that's their vacation. If they wanted that, I'd go crazy. I would go nuts, but it's their vacation, not mine. So if whatever it is they want, when you start asking why would you want to do whatever it is you told me you're going to do? Why is it important to you? Why is this trip the most important trip you've ever taken with you and your family, let's say, or whatever the case may be? That's the soft information. And ladies and gentlemen, I would propose to you that it is that soft information that is going to help you help them get past the procrastination. It is that soft information that will allow them to choose to move forward with the process. Because, and I think it's later on in the presentation, but here's the fact. We buy things and we take action on things based on emotions. We buy based on emotions. We justify those purchases based on facts or logic. So we buy based on emotions and we justify based on logic. So let's make sure we got the emotions, we got the whys down pat. So here's some of the questions that you might ask during that discovery phase. Why is this trip important to you? Who is it most important to? What if you're talking to these folks and you're talking to this nice lady and you say, well, who is this trip most important to? And she says, well, in reality, my mom. We've got myself, my sister, and my brother, and she has 15 grandkids, and she wants to do something with them before she can't go on a trip and be mobile anymore. So she wants to bring the entire family to Walt Disney World for 7 nights. Again, at this point, I'm going, oh my God, I couldn't do that. Not my vacation, it's theirs. And if grandmother wants to do that, that's fine. Does that change the way I'm going to talk to this nice lady going forward? You bet it is. Does it change some of the things I'm going to put in my recommendation? You bet it is. Because I want to make sure they have experiences where grandma, where grandmother, where granny, where Meemaw can have some experiences with those grandkids that she'll never forget. And that's what's going to be important to this trip. Why is this the best time to go on this trip? Why do you want to go then? Walt Disney World at Christmas is not the place I want to be, but there are people out there that do. But I need to know why and why they want to go when they're going. All these kind of things inform what I'm going to do when I build a recommendation. So my question to you is, what other questions do you ask? What other questions do you ask? Chat it in, just a brief kind of a question. What sort of other soft information questions do you use when you're in that discovery phase of the travel professional's planning process? Anything interesting in there, Stephanie?
Well, there was one. This was a little before. Lisa said that just asked AI questions to why someone wants to travel to a destination, got 15 questions. I love that. That's smart. Love little AI there. So okay, there's a lot of them coming in. Is what's motivating this trip? Have you ever been to this destination before? Are
Hmm.
there any other celebrations? So,
Oh,
what is the best
yeah.
vacation you've ever had taken and why?
Yes. Have you ever worked with a travel advisor before?
It's good.
That's one I forget to put on here, but it's so vitally important. Have you ever worked with a travel advisor before? Well, let me tell you how it works. And then you can get into the briefly get into this is how I work with my clients. But those are great questions. Anything else, Steph?
Yeah, there's so many good ones. This was kind of a cool one. What kind of atmosphere are you looking for? Quiet or party? And oh, another good one. What is your favorite style of family meal? That's really good. That's stuff that I would not think of, to be honest, which is really smart.
To tell the truth, I've been teaching this class for many years, and I've never thought of that one. And that's a great
Yeah.
one. I'm gonna add that to my resume, that or my repertoire. That's a really really good one. So thank you all very much for sharing. That's important. Moving on down the road in the process here, have you ever had a client that questioned everything you recommended? Well, are you sure that's right? Can I get a better price? Or you send them a recommendation. Some people might want to call that a quote. Please don't. Quotes are terrible things. Quote is a terrible word. It's my personal opinion here, but I want to get that word out of the Webster dictionary. Because what happens if you send somebody something, you tell them, there's a quote for you. Well, I don't know about you, but the first thing that I want to do when I get a quote is get another one. So I have something to compare to. And then all I'm going to compare are the price numbers. Why would I ever want to suggest, imply by using that word to my client, my prospective traveler, that they should go get another one of those things in order to compare? Because we all know you can build a thing to be whatever price you want it to be. I can add this or take that off and come up with whatever number I need to come up with. But that's not what we do. We help people get what they want. So that's not where we want to go. And that's why quote is kind of a word I want to get rid of. You're going to make recommendations. You're going to make recommendations because you're a professional, and professionals make recommendations to their clientele. I don't tell my consulting clients what they must do or tell them to go check it out with several other people. I say, here are the recommendations. We'll talk about how you do that with travel before we get there. How many times have you ever had somebody go through all the process with you and then say, gee, I think I'll book that myself. It seems so easy now. And you're pulling your hair out. If I had some, I'd pull on it. But it's really, really, really a pain in the butt. But have you ever had that last one up there? Have you ever had somebody that you started to work with and they just didn't treat you with respect that you deserved? They didn't treat you as a professional, and you begin to think maybe this is not somebody else. In fact, you get to the point where you just dread having to talk to them. Well, let's talk about how we don't have to go through these things ever again. And we do it by qualifying our prospects. You want to work with qualified prospects. If they're not qualified, you got to get to the point where you're willing to say no and not waste your time with them. Here's what qualifies a prospect, in my opinion. They can afford to travel. So you don't have this constant nickel and diming on how much it costs to get on the metro liner and go from Alexandria to Washington, D.C., or whatever the case may be. They know the value you bring to the table, so they're not always questioning, why am I even talking to you? Can I do this online? No, we want people that understand the value you bring to the table. And that might be something they learn in that initial conversation, okay? They want to work with you. They want to do business with you. We used to call that being able to approach someone with, being able to approach them on a positive or favorable basis. You don't want somebody that's talking to you and all they're doing is, yeah, no, yeah. No, you want them to be able to have a conversation with you. And finally, they're not a pain in the neck, right? Right. So if we got people that can afford to travel, they know the value of a travel advisor, they want to talk and work with you, and they're not a pain in the neck, then you've got somebody that you can work with. Well, why go through all that trouble, Morris? Why worry about it? Well, you're going to find these things out during that initial conversation if you ask the right questions in discovery, right? But you've got to be aware of the fact that I want to make sure this person is qualified. Here are my first 4 qualifications, and I might add a few to that as well. And I just see that the numbers on that slide are really weird. It's only odd numbers. Anyhow, you want to make sure that they're qualified, right? If they're not qualified, then let's make some suggestions as to where they should go to get this done. But wait a minute, Morris, that's a travel, that's a trip I might be able to book. Well, while you're running through all the things you have to run through and jumping through all the hoops that non-qualified traveler is going to ask you to jump through, you could have booked 2 trips with a qualified prospect that you believe is really going to travel because your time is too valuable to waste. You don't have time to worry about a non-qualified traveler. I have one client that she owns a travel agency with 50 independent contractors, does over, well, it goes close to $20 million in sales a year. And her line is basically, I don't have time to work with anyone that's not qualified. And she really harps on that all the time, that she is only going to work with qualified prospective travelers. If they're just doing their research and they want you to teach them everything they need to know, it's a waste of your time. Qualified travelers are 98.354% greater chance that a qualified traveler is going to actually travel and book the trip than a non-qualified traveler. Okay, so I made up the number. Anyhow, it's a lot more than if they're not qualified, believe me. And finally, we know from data that we've tracked that you will earn more if you spend your time with qualified travelers versus travelers that are not qualified. All right, so now we're going to build some recommendations. But before I get into this, Stephanie, anything else in the chat? Any questions? Anything that we need to respond to? Anybody got anything going on we need to talk about?
There are some questions. And I love the options. A lot of people are loving that idea, and some of them already do that, where they don't say the word quote, they do options. But one question that I'll ask you now is, was how do you say, like, ask the question, do you have a budget in mind for us to work with, or is there a better way to frame this question? I think that's a big one that kind of comes up because they don't want to stop the conversation from getting, so how do you, what's the best way to approach that one?
How do you deal with the couple that's getting married and for their honeymoon, they want to go to Hawaii, and down the road you find out that they've got $2,500 to spend on their honeymoon?
Yeah.
You can't even get to Hawaii for, well, maybe you can, I don't know. But the fact is, that's a real life case. And the agent was going through all this kind of stuff and then finally revealed it was an $8,000 honeymoon. And these poor young couple went, we don't have more than $2,000. But she didn't do the discovery part. She didn't ask the questions. Now, how do you deal with that? There are 2 schools of thought, and I could go either way. I've seen people do it both ways, and it works beautifully for them because they've made it a part of who they are and how it works. I'll tell you what my opinion is. I would not ever bring up the word budget. I would simply have the conversation with them and continue talking. And it's amazing how, if you just listen, you can determine kind of what category they fall in. But you don't scare them off with the word budget. The other problem with asking for a budget is that, well, gee, Stephanie, tell me, what's your budget for this trip? somebody asked me that, am I going to give them my maximum budget or am I going to give them something a little less than that just to see what they come back with? Right? I mean, we all kind of play those sort of things from time to time. So rather than do that, if I just simply have conversations with them and maybe somewhere along the line of the conversation, I'll mention how much it costs to do something or that this is a little more expensive than something else. Um, you find out, you're going to figure it out and you get adept at having that perception for what category of money they've got, what category of budget they've got to really work with. So I prefer to do it that way because I believe it makes it easier on the prospect. The minute I say, what's your budget for this trip? I believe that kind of has made it a little hard for them because now they've got to decide what they're going to tell you. Well, you know, we've got $8,000 in the savings account to take the family. But if I tell him $8,000, he's going to make sure he spends at least $8,000 on this trip. But what about the other side? What if they tell you, you know, we can only afford $8,000 and there are three options that you know about that they don't even know. They have no idea they could get the better stateroom on the boat. They have no idea they could get the better room at the resort just for a few dollars more per person per night. They have no idea. But if you're stuck at that $8,000 number, then you're kind of, you know, locked in, and it may be hard to come back and say, now look, you told me $8,000, but here's an option you may not have thought of. Here's an option you may not have known about. I'd much rather do that in the recommendations that I do rather than have to come back and suggest to them that we're not going to do what they told me they wanted to do. Because once they tell me it's okay to break that budget, that's a hard decision for them. And I don't want to make it hard. I want to make it as easy as it can possibly be. So I know I didn't answer your question with a real clean and clear and crisp answer because I don't think there is one. You've got to try it and you got to see how it works. But if you'll listen when you're doing the discovery and you'll have some conversation about certain things that cost certain amounts, it's amazing how you'll find out without ever having to bring up the B word, without ever having to say, what's your budget? Because I promise you, when you ask that question, they're going to say the budget's $5,000, but they've got $8,000 in the account that they could spend. If you show them where and how and why, it's going to help them get what they want. We're always back to helping them get what they want. Okay, so we're going to do 3 recommendations. Any other questions before I move on, Steph?
There's one more here, from Alberto is, how can we politely decline or avoid a customer if they are not qualified for our services?
Alberto, it's real simple. You say, I don't want to work with you. Get out of my face. No,
What are you doing?
no, we don't do that. A couple of ways you might think about it. If it were you and me, and I'm sorry, what was your name again? Was Alfredo?
Oh, Alberto.
Alberto.
I scrolled away from it. Yep, there you go.
It might be something like this. Alberto, I get where you want to go and I understand your vision for this trip. Sounds like it's going to be a wonderful thing. But I got to tell you, brother, I've got some friends that are much more qualified to help you with this trip than I am. My niche and my expertise is all around river cruises in Europe. And what you want to do here with Walt Disney World and the fast way they change things, you need a Walt Disney World expert to help you with this. And I've got just the right person. Cindy can help you, and she is the best. I promise you, she's going to book the best trip you've ever had. All right. So I can move that kind of a direction. Or I can ask the other questions that we didn't want to ask in the first place, but might be worth asking at this point, especially if I want to suggest that they go find something else to do. So Alberto, let me make sure I understand. You want to go to Hawaii and you want to spend 5 nights there. What's your budget for that trip? Because chances are, if I get the feeling that Alberto is not a seasoned traveler and really doesn't know what he's asking, he might say, you know, well, my budget's $4,000. And I've got to then say simply, Alberto, I am so sorry. It's going to cost nearly that just to get from Omaha to Maui and back. We haven't even bought a meal yet. We haven't even put you in a room with a pillow where you can sleep. It's a lot more expensive than that. So maybe there's certain things that you want to do here that are not really where I can add a whole lot of value or be of any use to you. If that's your budget and it's a pretty hardline budget, may I suggest that you go back and do a little more research? You know, with Google, you can learn all sorts of things. Do a little more research and see if there's not somewhere else that is near and dear to your heart that would more than fit your budget. So, Alberto, I don't know if those help you or not, but those are the kind of things that I might try before I said, do you think I'm going to work with you? No, we're not going to do that. But the fact is, you can gently and very professionally suggest other alternatives rather than trying to plan a trip that they're never going to be able to afford, or try and plan a trip for somebody that treats you like a those things I can't say on a webinar. You don't take that. None of us should ever have to deal with someone who does not treat us with respect. And if that's the way it's going on the call, I don't have any problem shutting that one down real quick. You know, John, I've got a lot of clients, and I just don't think you and I are on the same page. I don't think that I'm going to be your best option for a travel advisor. May I suggest that you go online and Google travel advisors and see who might be a better choice for you? But right now, I think that's going to be our best move at this point. But thanks so much for calling. How's that sound, Stephanie?
Yes, Alberto said that helps a lot. So thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it. All right, you're going to create 3 recommendations. 3 recommendations for their travel. You've learned all this great stuff from Discovery. You now know all these wonderful things that they want to do to make the best trip they've ever had. Now you start to put that stuff together and work magic. The magic I have seen travel advisors work on trips as we go through some of this stuff just blows me away. That's where your expertise and your value comes into play, and nobody else can do it as good as you can. Now, I'm telling you that from experience with a whole lot of travel advisors over my last 10 years of doing this. So please understand that's your wheelhouse. That's where you're going to add value to this trip that nobody else is going to be able to add. Okay? So you build 3 recommendations. Now, in the olden days, again, back when I was driving my horse and carriage, Sears and Roebuck had a thing in the 60s they started where they would have these big displays and have it say good, better, and best. Well, you look at a couple of them and you find out what it actually says is low price, medium price, and high price. That is not what I'm suggesting. That ain't even close. Now, what I'm suggesting is that you build 3 recommendations. Each of those 3 recommendations would fit their requirements, would be a wonderful trip for them to go on, and you would be happy no matter which one of those 3 they choose. Option 1 is going to have some benefits, a benefit or 2. Option 2 is going to have maybe some different benefits, or at least one different benefit. Option 3 is going to also have a little bit of a different benefit. And their prices are obviously going to have to be different. That's okay. But it's not like one's for $10,000 and one's for $3,000. The differences are all within within a range that would be acceptable to your prospective client. Okay? So they can't say that one's more expensive than the other significantly such that I'm not going to choose that one. Rather, they're going to be about the same price, but the benefits are different. And we sell benefits. We don't sell features, we sell benefits. Okay? I don't necessarily think it's the best analogy in the world, but here's the difference between a feature and a benefit. Okay? You're going to buy a new car. And back in the olden days, you guys are so young, I have to explain this. Back in the olden days, to roll up and down your windows, the reason we say roll is because there was a crank and you had to turn the crank. Stephanie, you don't remember that, do you?
No, my first car had that. It had the so when you would try to go like speed
Yeah,
off, you had to go move.
so that was the olden days. But then they came up with this new thing. It was an electric window. You push a button and it goes up. You push it down the way and it goes down. Okay. The electric window is a feature. The benefit of that feature is you don't have to roll it up and roll it down with your arm anymore. All you've got to do is push a button. We want to sell the ease of being able to push the button. Most of the time, people care, but not so much about the mechanics that go into how the electric window works or that it is electric. They just want to know that all I have to do is push a button and my window will go up and down. The benefit is I don't have to crank the dadgum thing anymore. Okay? So, 3 recommendations. We're going to talk about benefits. Now, how do you do that? Well, first thing you have to do is you can't just send them this stuff in an email and say, hey, y'all, give me a call when you make a decision. No, that's like here's the menu, choose a couple of things and then I'll take your order. No, that's not what we want to do. You want to get on the line with them. You want to get on the phone. You want to get on a Zoom call. You want to somehow or another be live and in person so that you can show them. That's a great word, show. I can't show you something in an email, but I can on Zoom. And I can even over the phone give you a pretty good picture of it. So if I've got them live and in person, then I can say, Alberto, there are 3 recommendations that I have. Based on what you told me, there are 3 ways we could look at this. Option number 1 is that we do this, this, and this, and it's got great alternatives for you for this, that, and the other. Option 2, Alberto, is that we do this. It's a little bit different, but it's got these benefits, and you can do this, that, and the other. Option 3 is a little bit more cost, a little bit more of a cost involved, but that's because one of the benefits that I added in here was a better stateroom so that you could actually walk outside and sit on the balcony of your stateroom and have a cocktail while the ship's pulling into port. Now, here's the deal. You're happy with any one of the 3 they choose. I really don't care which one they choose. I want it to be the one that's best for them. That's my objective, right? And that's the way it goes. As I said, it's not, here's a quote, give me a call when you make a decision. That generates crickets and they fill up your office and you never hear the phone ring because all you hear is crickets. Okay? The way you get rid of the crickets is you provide 3 recommendations, here are the benefits, and then you ask the magic question. You got to ask the magic question. But before we do that, think about words and language for a minute. Words and language matter, just like the word quote. Words bring up pictures in our mind and bring up ideas about what we should or shouldn't do based on that. So we want to do this recommendation in person. Again, it's not a quote, call me when you get a decision, but we're going to present it to them. Once we present these 3 recommendations and share with them the benefits, and we do it and we're on the Zoom call or phone or face-to-face even, whatever the case may be, then we're going to ask the magic question. But before we get into the magic question, there's one more thing I want to share with you. A word about words before we do that. Too many words cause confusion. One of my agencies that I work with is an agency that, and like most, they'll do travel anywhere, but they bring in their new agents and they start them with Walt Disney World. Okay. Have you gone in there? And I know some of you don't even care to even look at Walt Disney, but if you ever, and I bet it's true with other vendors as well, have you ever been in there and looked at their stuff about what all they say about a resort, for example? There's 5, 6, 8 pages of information about what might happen if you stayed at the Grand Floridian and what the options are and what all the things are that you could do. 5 or 6 pages. Oh, Lord have mercy. Don't send that to a prospective traveler. Too many words do nothing more than create confusion because you know what, and you know it as well as I do, they're not going to read it. They're not going to read it. So let's not generate confusion and give them a reason to procrastinate, because that's what happens when they get confused. A confused or overwhelmed mind will not take action. A confused or overwhelmed mind will not buy. They will find every reason in the world not to proceed. Okay? So let's not overwhelm them with information. It doesn't make you look good. It doesn't help them one bit, and it certainly doesn't help you. You're going to get them all that information, and you're going to give them all the stuff they need to know to be able to understand the terms and conditions. But let's do that after we book the trip. Okay? There's nothing in there that's going to make or break the deal. There's nothing in there that's going to make or break them deciding to travel. And if there is, they can always stop it and turn around and go back. We haven't put anything in stone yet. So don't confuse them. Don't send them so much stuff that they're never going to do that. Let's focus on the stuff that's most important. Now, did I mention the magic question? I think I did. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. And here it is. I've given them my 3 recommendations. I've given them the benefits. And then I simply say, hey, Sarah, which one of those do you think is going to be best for you and your family? Sarah, which one of those do you like the best? Which one of those do you think would be, and you give Sarah, in this case, the opportunity to make a decision. We're not asking her to fill up a blank piece of paper. We're giving her 3 options. Multiple choice questions are easier, aren't they? For the most part. Multiple choice questions are usually easier. If we did it right, she's not going to get hung up on the numbers, because that's where folks sometimes like to get hung up on, is the numbers. We're not going to get hung up on the numbers because it's all about the same price. She just has to decide which one of those benefits, which one of those trips, which one of those recommendations she likes the best and that she thinks is going to help her and her family have the best trip they've ever had in their entire life. So she says, Morris, I think number 2. I think that second one's the one that would be best for us. I'm going to say, Sarah, that's great. I like number 2 as well. I liked it when I designed it, and I thought for sure that that might be one of your top choices as well. I'm so glad and excited for you, because that's going to get you so much of the different things that you told me you wanted. And I'm going to be excited about the fact that Sarah chose number 2. And then I'm going to say, Sarah, in order to lock this in and make sure that we get you all the things that you want on this vacation, we need to put a deposit down. Now, here's how the deposit works. And I know every vendor is different. So you got to give them the concise definition of what that deposit is and what the terms are. If you do this, and up until 60 days before you travel, if you choose not to do this, you can get your money back, whatever the case may be. You got to do that, but you want to do it concisely. So Sarah, in order to get you all the things that you want, we need to put a deposit down. Now, with this case, in this trip, here's the way the deposit works. Which credit card would you like to put that on? Magic question number 2. Magic question number 2. Not what do you think? Not is that okay? Would that be all right with you? Sarah, which credit card do you want to put that deposit on? Just as general and as easy, as a matter of fact, as that can be. Sarah, which card do you think you want to put that on? Well, not do you think. Sarah, which card would you like to put that on? And you let her answer the question. Now, with both of these magic questions, there's one thing that you must do, and you are the only one who can do it. And it is one of the most difficult things in the entire world to do, but I know you can do it if you just try and you think about it. When you say, Sarah, which one of those do you think is going to be best for you and your family? Your job at that point is to hush. You got to shut up and let her think about it and let her make a decision. Give her the respect for allowing her to think about it and come back with a considered decision. If you start talking about benefits or anything else for that matter, she won't ever get back to considering which one is best for her and her family. It only is right and correct. I mean, if you start talking, you're interrupting her. And last time I checked, that's rude, right? Sarah, which one do you think is right for you and your family? And that's what it takes. You have to put the button on your lip and just wait. And sometimes that is the most difficult thing in the world to do. But it's only right. It's only professional. It's only good. Because if you start talking, you're interrupting her, and that's rude. Okay? So there you have it. That's how you professionally help people make a decision so that they can move forward and get the vacation that they want and not succumb to the entire human behavior desire to procrastinate and come up with an objection of some kind, one way or another. But that's how it works. Which one do you think's right for you and your family, and which credit card do you want to put it on? That's it. And as I said earlier, what we've done is we've just put all the control back in the traveler's hands, and we've made it easy for them to choose an option. That's our objective, is to make it easy. We don't want to make it hard. We don't. This should not be a hard thing to do. Oh God, I hate it. For example, I hate to go buy a new car. I shouldn't, but I do. I hate it. And then I get a salesperson that just got out of their sales training, not mine, who says, "Mr. Sims, what can I do today to earn your business?" And I'm going, "You got to be joking." And then he calls his sales manager over, and his sales manager says the same thing. "Mr. Sims, what do we need to do to earn your business?" And I'm thinking, boys, y'all need to get on the same page and not use the same line every time. But I don't do that. I didn't go there. Point is, make it easy. That kind of crap doesn't make it easy, and it's what turns out to be salesy, right? We don't do that. We're professional salespeople. We provide great, tremendous value that nobody else can provide. That's where you come into play. And then we provide things, we talk about things using the right words and language to make it easy on the prospect to get what they want. Because that's the whole objective, is to help them get what they want and to help them overcome all the hassles of going through this process, because we're going to make it easy. I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to hush now, Stephanie. That's about it. There's a quick recap for you. You're professional salespeople. You're great at what you do. You bring great value. Don't forget about words and language, because it really does matter. It really, really does matter. 2 magic questions, and I promise you, if you use those and you have the discipline to keep your mouth closed after you ask them, it's going to make a huge difference. Frankly, this is the process that kept me in the business as a brand new insurance agent, because I wasn't doing so well initially. I learned this process, and all of a sudden I was able to pay the mortgage. It's amazing how all this works. We just want to make it easy. If you want to talk to me, there's my email address. Website is very hard to remember. Here it is, morrissims.com. And on that website, you'll see an option for the Travel Masters Learning Community. Would love to have you be a member. Would love to have you come and see us there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop me an email, or you can even book I think you can even book a time to visit with me online and on the website, and I would love to do that. Stephanie, any other questions or anything else we need to chat about?
Yeah, there was one that some people are chatting about it in here, is for magic question number 2, like taking the payment. So we have like the credit card authorization form, and so I think some people are just saying that, they say like Carolyn said, "Perfect, I'll be sending you a credit card authorization for your deposit for option 2." Or is there a better way to say that? So like when you are having to send them something, what do you think's the best way to say that?
Read me again what Carolyn said, because I didn't get it the first time through.
Yeah, so well, basically a lot of people were asking before that was like, well, what if you have to send them the credit card authorization form to get their payment info? And Carolyn said, "I don't ask for credit card info over the phone." She just says, she asked, "Can I just say, 'Perfect, I will be sending you a credit card authorization for your deposit for option 2'?" And then she said, "Or is there a better way to say that?"
It depends, I think, there on what your host agency may have told you that they require, or what your vendor may require. As long as you don't store that information somewhere, I don't think it's a problem if you take it over the phone. If you are storing that information somewhere, then you're going to have a problem, just overall, no matter how you got the information. If anybody, I would personally just ask for it over the phone. If they have a problem with that, "Gee, Morris, I just don't like to do that over the telephone." Not a problem. Tell you what, I'll email you an authorization form. All you got to do is fill it out and send it back to me, and we'll go from there. And that way we won't have to do this live over the phone. Would that be okay? And you ask that permission question. There are titles for all these different kind of questions. A permission question, It's just all sorts of stuff. Facts, open-ended, closed. That permission question is one of the best things in the entire world. The one thing you can do to disarm your prospect if they're feeling like they're having to put up some defenses for whatever reason is to ask their permission. Just simply ask their permission. I can certainly understand that. Number one thing to say. I can, Stephanie, I can certainly understand that. In fact, a lot of the people that I work with feel exactly the same way. And that's why we have a credit card authorization form that we use. And I'll be happy to email that to you. And you can just fill it out and send it back to me. It's all encrypted, and that way your information is safe. Would that be okay with you? Would that work? How about that? With that in mind, the email address I should use is thus and so. That's probably the best way to do it because that implies that it's going to work. The implication is that you're going to fill out the form and send it back. So I have this form. It's going to, so what email address? Is it the sims.rm address you'd like for me to send that to? See, I'm assuming that that's going to be their answer. And I'm not going to make her say, yes, please send me the form. All I'm going to say is that the right email address to use? Did that help? Was that worthwhile?
That was good. I'm gonna have to use that now when we do trainings because so that's where Travify we have the credit card authorization form and it's PCI compliant, but it will help with like chargebacks because when they fill it out, it puts like all the details when they signed it, all that good stuff. So I love that. I am going to share that with people now moving forward because that's a great way to say, so this is the email. Is this the right email? Morris, you're so good at this. Very good.
Well, when you ride a bike for 40 years, it sort of helps. How close are we on time?
We're about ready to wrap up, but if there's any final things you want to share, go for it. Or if there's any, I can also look for a lot of the questions were around like that, or there was a question earlier I could ask you here is Joan had asked, should we schedule and have the call before we email the recommendations in print, or does it matter?
If you email them the recommendations before you have the call, I find there are two things that can happen. Number one is they're going to get excited. They're going to get excited and can't wait to talk to you about it. That's the response we'd like to have. The other response would be, okay, I see this. I think I'm good. I'm going to book it myself, or I'm going to choose number two or whatever. And you just lost the opportunity to have that conversation. Okay. So there are two ways to think about it. Number one is they're going to not see the need. And I'm going to get this email that says there's no reason for us to meet next Tuesday. We need to think about it some more. Now I've got an answer a concern, and there's a whole process for answering your concern. We just don't have time to get into it today. The key is let's have a conversation. We'll schedule it. Here's my Calendly link. Find a time that's best and most convenient for you in the next 10 days because we need to lock this thing down. Otherwise, they're going to take these options away. They're not going to be available anymore. So in the next 5 days, if you'll find a time on Calendly for us to get together, that would be great. Okay, something along those lines. Then we can get on Calendly and I can go through it with them. If I do it that way, I retain control. And at this point in the process, I need to be in control. Okay. When I give them something and say, here, this is yours to look at, to think about, to work with, I've just lost control. And that's where crickets can start to enter your office. And you don't want crickets. The last thing in the world you want is for these folks to look at your options and say, I'm going to go see if I can find something better than this. And they decide to go out and talk to somebody else. Now, could they do that while you present it in person? Sure, they could. But it's much less likely if you're retaining that conversation and you're having that conversation. It's much less likely that they're going to run off and go do something different than to stick with you. That helps, Steph?
That's great. I think the thing is the hashtag no crickets. That's what we want. We don't want crickets around here.
That's right.
This has been awesome. Morris, this is so great. I know everyone was so engaged, and I know Bonnie and I are like, wow, this is like, I feel like I could just go sell anything at this point right now. I feel empowered. It's
Well,
so awesome.
if we have 2 more minutes, I have a bonus.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's do this rather rapidly. The gentleman I just interviewed on my podcast is Dr. Richard Kay. He was a chiropractic doctor out in California in LA. And you can imagine how many chiropractors there are in LA? And he finally
Wow.
figured out he needed to do something to market his business. So Dr. Kay told me, he said, Morris, it is not who you know. How many times have you heard that, Stephanie? It's all about who you know. Not in
Yeah.
our business. In our business, it's all about who knows you. Not who you know, but who knows you. That's what Dr. K taught me. There are 5 different platforms you can use to make sure that people know you and they're willing to talk to you. Personal observation is the easiest. That means go out and talk to people about what you do all day long. When somebody says, what do you do? Maybe you're doing travel as a side hustle. Maybe you're selling real estate and you're doing travel as a side hustle. It's probably not the way I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to answer that question if I really want to grow my travel business. I'm going to answer the question, G. Morris, what do you do? I'm going to say, well, I help people have the very best vacations they've ever had in their entire life, and all they have to do is show up and have fun. I handle all the details, and there are no problems. Their next question is, how do you do that? And what do you do? At that point in time, I may answer a little bit of that, but eventually I'm going to say, standing here in line at Starbucks is probably not the best place for us to have this conversation. What's your email address? Let me give you a buzz on email and let's find a time where we can talk. That's personal observation marketing. You're out in front of people, you're with people all day long. Be ready to have that conversation about your travel business. It shouldn't be, well, I sell real estate and on the side I do a little travel. Not if you want to grow your travel business. You want to grow your real estate business? Go for it. But if you want to grow your travel business, that's got to be your focus. Email marketing has become a wonderful thing. Your email list is your most valuable asset in your business. I'm going to say that again. Your email list is your most valuable asset in your business, so use it. But use it with a professional email marketing system. MailChimp, we all have seen and heard of. Not ConnectKit, but ConvertKit. ConvertKit. That's another one that's just really, really cool. My daughter is my marketing person. She does MailerLite, and I don't even know where that comes from or where it came from. Never heard of it before until she found it. Get a professional marketing system, and because some of them do that for free until you get into the thousands and thousands of people. Use that because they're going to keep you out of trouble with the federal government and spam and all the rest of that stuff. Events are wonderful, and people immediately, travel agents tell me, oh, events, yeah, Morris, I do a wedding planning event every year. Great, go for it. Now, what are the other 5 events you're going to do this year that have nothing to do with weddings? And they go, I don't know. Well, what about the community? Is there a community event, a church event, a school event for your kids, trunk or treat? I just heard about that last year. Trunk or treat, where, they park cars and everybody's got candy in their trunk and there's stuff. You could have all sorts of stuff about travel hanging off of your trunk lid and giving out candy to kids on Halloween. It's amazing what you can do with events. Social media. I did the initial applications in recruiting for one of my clients, and every time on the application it says, how are you going to market yourself? They all put social media. No. Social media is like a great big electronic internet billboard. And that's about all it'll do for you, in my opinion. Now, when was the last time you took somebody's name and phone number off a billboard to call them and to do business with them? But you might know who they are. So social media is great to get your name out there so that people know who you are and what you do. It's just not going to be your only way to generate business. Social media is okay. Direct mail is okay. Vendors will give you stuff you can mail, postcards, all sorts of stuff you can mail out to people if you want to. It all works. And finally, the one that's not on here, that's probably the best of them all, is to ask for referrals. Stephanie, I'm so glad you enjoyed your trip. I'm really pleased that it all worked out well and we were able to solve those problems and make it so you didn't have to worry about it. Yeah, Steph, you probably know 4 or 5 other families like yourselves that might want to take a trip at some time in the future. I'm not looking for people that want to travel next week, but at some point in time in the future, they might want to travel. I'd love to meet them sometime. Who would the top 2 people that come to mind? Who would that be? And you get a couple of more prospects to talk to. And then you approach them just like that. Look, I planned a wonderful trip for Stephanie and her family. Just want to let you know that she's out there. She thinks very highly of you and your family. And I wanted to make sure that we had give you the opportunity to be on our mailing list so that when you get ready to travel, we're here to help you too. Boom. And that's it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's your marketing bonus for the day. And that's it for me. I'm done, Steph.
That's awesome. There's actually, and I put this in earlier, but on the podcast that when Morris came on the Travify's podcast, you talk about some of that stuff too, and it's really good. So I put that in there, so everyone should go take a listen to that. So it's really cool. But thank you so much, Morris. This was seriously, and someone else said this, and I was like, yeah, this was going to be the perfect like bookend to sales workshop. And someone just said this really helped tighten up their sales process, that they've been like learning some new ideas the past few days. So Morris, always such a pleasure. It's really, really awesome. So thank you for being here with us today and sharing so much of your knowledge and just passion in sales. I mean, it's really cool that, you have so many great ideas and the expertise is there. And no doubt in my mind, we're going to start slinging sales left and right, not in a slimy way, a good way.
Absolutely. And that podcast is great. Our current podcast is the Travel Masters podcast, and it's on Spotify. You can find it under Travel Masters or Google me or search for me on Spotify, and you'll find us there. We've done over 300 episodes on that one and the one we had before, the business of sales. So there's all kinds of stuff there. All that stuff is also on Travel Masters. We'd love to see you become members of Travel Masters, but most importantly, we want to see you grow your business and help your agents, help your clients get what they want. Thanks for having me, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
I know, this is such a good time. And thank you so much, everyone, too. And hopefully we see you. I put the link a little bit ago for Bonnie and I are going to start preparing for Travel Trivia Happy Hour. We'll see you in just a little bit, hopefully everyone there. But thank you so much again, Morris. This was so great and amazing and a lot of fun. So we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. You guys have a great evening. Go out and meet somebody new this week. Have a great time. And I'll see you sometime soon. Take care. Thanks, Stephanie.
See ya. Bye.